Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where you get the inside access to the best minds in the game. Each week, Chris has the privilege of chatting with top instructors, legendary players, course architects, and industry insiders. If you're looking to improve your game, gain a new perspective, or just hear some incredible golf stories, you are indeed in the right place.
You see, Chris, let me tell you something, I haven't spoken to a press man in my life that is knowledgeable, seriously, as you are. Never.
You do such a great job. It kind of makes me feel good all of a sudden.
You do so much for the game. You're so kind to all of us that are out there in the game. You know, we need more people like you in the game of golf.
Thank you for pressing play. Now, grab your clubs, step up to the tee, and let's get started. This is Next on the Tee.
Hi, folks, and welcome into this episode of Next on the Tee, where golf legends live and your game gets better. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and I have a jam-packed episode in store for you this time around. I've got two of the very best instructors in our game on tap for you, plus the sports time traveler makes a return appearance here on the show. Let's get right into it because, again, we've got a jam-packed episode, so let's talk about right away who is going to join me and what are you going to hear. Well, of course, first up is our resident director of instruction, Tom Patri. I catch up with Tom on his drive down to Key West for a little R&R following his marathon golf round that went to benefit all of the different charities that are associated with the South Florida PGA section. So you'll get a lot about that and the great things that Tom was able to do and the fantastic amount of money he was able to raise. We also talk about some of the other things going on around our game. We get a little bit about Jackson Koivun, who won the 3M Open. We also get into some of the things that Tom learned being around some of the greatest legends in our game, particularly Seve Ballesteros. You'll hear about his time with Seve and what he learned from Seve over that time. We talk a little bit of mental game. You know, we like to do that here. We talk a little tour. We talk amateur golf. We talk about how us, right, those of us that are weekend warriors, maybe we're in the mid-handicap range. What are the things that we need to focus on that can quickly help us shave strokes, not only when we're on the way out to the golf course today, but also get our handicaps down? So Tom gives us some great pieces there. And then we do a little rapid fire, a little something we've never done with Tom before. Rapid fire, talking about some of the greats of the game and who he thinks are people like the best ball strikers of all time, who is the best driver of the golf ball, best wedge player, things of that nature. So a lot with Tom when he joins me here in a few minutes. Following him, we get that long overdue, which is all my fault, from one of the top instructors in our game, Virgil Herring. Virgil may be the most decorated instructor in the history of the Tennessee section. He's just absolutely fantastic. And we jump right into some things that he is doing a little bit differently out there in the game of golf. We'll talk about the Ryder Cup of Wine. Virgil is one of the other things that he is one of the most sought-after speakers. He's done a TED Talk. He's out there speaking at engagements all over the country because of how absolutely motivating and captivating he is. And like I say, he's got an event called the Ryder Cup of Wine, which we get into right off the top. From there, we talk about some of the things going on mental side of the game, like the self-sabotage that we do, right? A lot of times we are starting to get inside our own heads too much. So he helps us with that. The fear of judgment, right? That's one of the things that gets us, whether it's on the first tee and a bunch of people are around, or we're out there playing in the game, right, and trying to decide our strategy and that sort of thing. One of the things that comes into play is fear of judgment from people around us. So we get into a lot of that as well. So Virgil is going to really help uplift you during this segment. I think you're really going to enjoy it. It's a vivid conversation about what we can do and how we can do it differently. So I'm very excited about it, and I hope you really enjoy that segment. I'd love your comments, if you would, out there, wherever you're listening to the show, in the comment section. Let me know what you think about Virgil's segment. Then we round things out with a return visit, like I say, from the sports time traveler, Len Furman. One of the great things that I've really enjoyed about following Len, again, it's the Sports Time Traveler, out on his Substack page, is he's taken us day by day through the 1966 baseball season. This is a lot of fun. Folks, if you just enjoy the history of baseball, go out there and follow Len, because, again, every day is like it's that day in 1966, so he's not getting ahead of himself. He is taking us day by day through that baseball season. And it is so much fun living that year as if it were today. Len's writing style is so much fun as well. So you're really going to enjoy that. I can't tell you how much fun I am having going out to his page every day and reading about that baseball season. Now, of course, we talk some golf too, because he also takes us through the 1966 U.S. Open at the Olympic Club in San Francisco. That leaderboard, as you can imagine, was jam-packed with legends of the game. So he walks us through that golf tournament, and you'll see it through his eyes and all of the great players that were jockeying for the lead throughout the course of that golf tournament. It's absolutely so much fun to take us through that, right? And then we talk about how Billy Casper came back. Remember Arnold Palmer, if you kind of spoiler alert, if you will, Arnold Palmer had a 7-stroke lead going into the final 9 holes, right? So there's a story within a story about how it all kind of unraveled, unfortunately, for the King, and then how Billy Casper made his way through that and obviously winning the golf tournament in a playoff the following day. So a lot to get in with Len. He's got so many great stories for us that we get to relive and digest and enjoy and kind of vicariously live through him and his stories. So it's a lot of fun. Go out there and make sure you're following him. And I want you to go out there on the sportstimetraveler.com. Check out his website as well. But Len will join me in the final segment. I think you're really going to have a lot of fun with that. So, folks, as always, I can't thank you all enough for pressing play and coming back and being a part of this episode of Next on the Tee. As I say when I wrap up the show, I can't thank you all enough for being the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts. So thank you for being here and for taking the journey with me here over the next 90 minutes or so. One thing I could really use all of your help with. You guys know how important the algorithms are for getting this show in front of more great people like you. So wherever you're listening to it today, if you would subscribe, like, and then leave a comment, give us a rating, wherever it is, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, out on Trib Live, all of the wonderful places that you are pulling the show in, please just like the show, subscribe to it, and then give me a comment. That's how the algorithm picks it up and will display it to more great people like you. I would really appreciate your support. Before I bring on my first guest, I want to give you guys something that has just really stuck with me, and it's some products that I have been really impressed with. Now, they're local Pittsburgh products, but you can get them anywhere. It doesn't matter. They'll ship them wherever you're at. But two things that I am a huge fan of are hot sauce, and I love spices because I do the majority of the cooking in the house. And there are two companies that just knocked my socks off when I reached out. And look, they're not paying for this ad. This isn't a paid endorsement or anything. I just am so impressed that I want you to know about them and give you an opportunity to try them. And that is Artie's Hot Sauce. Huge fan of hot sauce. That's a big thing for me. Plus Steel City Salt. They have so many wonderful spice blends that I wanted to make you guys aware of them. If you're an enthusiast of either hot sauce or great spices that are going to light up everything that you put them on, I wanted to make you aware of them. I love trying different sauces and finding ones that have the perfect blend between heat and flavor. And a lot of sauces can bring the heat, but they've got no flavor behind it. Now, that is why I've become a huge fan of Artie's Hot Sauce. Artie's has found that sweet spot. His sauces bring plenty of flavor first and then the right amount of kick behind it. Whether you're putting it on wings, taco, burgers, eggs, pizza, or just about anything else, Artie's Hot Sauce makes everything that you have taste better. If you're a fellow hot sauce lover, you've got to go give them a try. You can find them out online at artieshotsauce.com. I also want to give a shout out to the Steel City Salt Company. Their handcrafted spice blends and seasonings are out of this world fantastic. I've become a big fan of several of them, including the Steel City Steak Seasoning, Black and Gold Blend, and their Pittsburgh Pepper Blend. I added them when I do things like grill out steak, grill out chicken. I sprinkle them on vegetables to give those an extra kick. I'm also a big pickle fan, so their dill pickle salt is going to knock your socks off. Not to mention their Pittsburgh's Little Italy, which I started to include in my Sunday red sauce recipe and sprinkle on top of pasta to give it an added burst of flavor. Their Black and Gold Blend, Yinzer Dust, and Love Pittsburgh Everything Salt is great on things like fries, eggs, the baked salmon that I make. John and the crew over there are going to grab you by the taste buds, and they're not going to let go. You're going to enjoy the attention that goes into each and every one of their blends. You're going to love it. I promise you. Go out there and check it out online for yourself. SteelCitySalt.com. You know I also have a huge dose of vitamin G for everybody over at the Pittsburgh Tribune Review and TribLive.com. TribLive.com is the leading news website in Western Pennsylvania, with news around the clock, Pittsburgh pro sports coverage, a high school sports network, and a podcast network, which is where you can find Next on the Tee. Bookmark TribLive.com or download the TribLive app for free and stay up to date with the latest news from Western Pennsylvania and beyond. I also want to talk about our friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company and Iron City Beer, a brand that I have loved my whole life and started drinking when I was 21 years old, of course. Whether you're a hacker or a scratcher, the secret to a successful day on the links is knowing when it's time to grab an iron, even if that means keeping it in the bag till the 19th hole. If it's been a while since you've reached for Pittsburgh staple beer, it's time to revisit Iron City. Thanks to their incredible new facility in Creighton, the best-tasting Iron City beer ever made is now available at a course near you. Iron City pairs well with any lie and sky and serves as a friendly reminder that there's always next round. Check out all of their wonderful beers and their gift shop by going online to pittsburghbrewing.com. All right, now back in Next on the Tee with me is our resident director of instruction, Tom Patri. You guys know his credentials by now, like being a Golf Magazine Top 100 alumni instructor, that he has coached or mentored over 125 PGA and LPGA professionals, collegiate and junior players who have combined to win over 125 events, that he is one of only 2 PGA members to be recognized as a PGA Section Teacher of the Year in both the Met and South Florida sections. He is now fresh off his marathon day of golf to raise money for the South Florida PGA section and their charities that they are affiliated with. He's currently in the car traveling down to Key West, but as always, it is still a huge thrill after 136 prior times to have him back on the show with me here on Next on the Tee. Hey, TP, how you doing, my friend? You sound like you're a million miles away, which you are. You doing all right, TP?
I'm heading due south. I'm heading directly towards Havana, Cuba. I'm going to come about 90 miles short because water's going to get in my way. I'm going to stop in Key West.
Good for you. So good to meet Tom Patri, as always.
Oh, my God.
So, yesterday, golf marathon. Update us. How'd it go?
Yeah, so I do as you know, Chris, I do a marathon for the South Florida PGA Foundation every year. I've been doing it this is my 10th year. And we raised about $22,000 yesterday. We played 117 holes, a little disappointed in 117 holes. The goal was about 150. We had 2 25-minute lightning delays. Welcome to South Florida during the summer. But that number yesterday passed the $100,000, our 10-year mark. It's going to go to a bevy of charities in the South Florida section, Habitat for Humanity, Nichols Children's Hospital, and a couple others. So it's a great foundation, great cause, and to give up a day a year to do that is a drop in the bucket compared to what golf has done for me. So I'm happy to give back and do that.
You had a little assistance, right? Our friend Meredith?
Meredith Shula, who's the assistant executive director of the South Florida PGA, is my cart driver every year. She comes over from all the way to the East Coast of Florida. Meredith does a lot to do. She does a big part of running the foundation and the X's and O's day to day of the foundation. There is a board, but she does a lot of the work for that foundation. She's a great lady, and she comes over and drives the cart, and we go. We usually get out there by about 7:15 in the morning. We went from 7:15 to about I think around 7 o'clock last night, about 12 hours. Again, we had those 2 interruptions, but she's a trooper, man. She's the best.
And over those years that you have done this event, how much money have you raised?
Just over 100,000.
Look at you.
So far. Yeah, we had, we started out small. People didn't know much about it. We had a couple of lean years where it was 7,000 or 8,000, but we made a little change to where we announced it this year, and we went from I think 9,500 last year to like 22,000 this year.
Wow.
So I think we kind of got the formula figured out now, and as long as I don't kick the bucket, we'll keep on doing it.
Indeed. Good for you, TP.
Yeah, it was fun. It's a lot of golf. It's a long day. We have a lot of laughs, and it's such, Chris. It's so important, and I think we forget how great this game is and the connections it makes and the relationships it makes and fosters, and how lucky we are to play the game. And we kind of get blinded by there's people out there that, aren't spending their day on a golf course. They're spending the day trying to figure out how to pay their bills, or, their kids in the hospital, or they don't have a place to live, or whatever it happens to be. And I think we need to, not lose sight of those things and those people, and do something to contribute and give back. So lucky to be where we are.
I'm guessing you were kind of channeling Ryan Fox. You don't get a lot of time to get behind the ball and pick a shot, or how you want to do it, because you got to get moving.
It's funny. It's funny you say that, Chris, because I probably hit the ball the best I've hit it all season yesterday for 117 holes. And I think Meredith kept track. I think I made 12 or 15 birdies or something. And you're not even reading a putt. You're just getting up there and hitting it. And you make 15 birdies and you haven't even read a putter, looked at it from either side, just kind of take a glance at it and hit it. I guess that says something for Ryan Fox, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Maybe it just says something about the game in general. Maybe we all need to do more of that, right? The more time we stand over it, the worse we are.
Maybe it says something about Tom Patri, too, So a lesson learned there, I think, for sure.
Indeed. All right, let's switch gears. I want to get your reaction on many things. One of the things is Rory McIlroy's recent comments about not playing again until the Tour Championship, because there have been changes for how the Tour Championship is being played this year. The leaderboard is no longer that staggered leaderboard based on where the guys finish in the top 30 in the FedEx Cup points. Now it's just strictly a regular stroke play tournament. As long as you're inside the top 30 in the FedEx Cup, you're in. And again, everybody is level. So Rory is currently, I think, 11th in the FedEx Cup points. He's number 2 in the world. There's no way he's going to fall out of the top 30. So essentially what Rory said was, I'll see you at the Tour Championship a month from now. He's going home, and God bless him, he's going to go spend some time with his daughter and his wife and all those things. There's no requirement anymore that he needs to be there. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on Rory skipping essentially a month's worth of tournaments, and we'll see at the Super Bowl, if you will?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, before I comment. Did he not make some kind of a comment about, not having to play in lesser events or something like that?
Yeah, there was something along where he talked about lesser events, yes.
I keep on trying to like Rory McIlroy. I keep on really trying to like him because I like his golf swing, and he's obviously so talented. But he keeps on making comments and saying things that are just not good. I mean, just not good for the game, just not good for, I think, his image or his legacy. And every time he makes one of these comments, I kind of go, I don't really like that. I don't really like that comment. I don't really like that attitude. I don't really like that presentation. And when I heard those comments about, I'll just show up to a championship, like how special I am. It just doesn't sit right. It's just a bad optic, man. It's a bad optic.
Yeah, I can't imagine it sat well with Brian Rolapp and the folks there at the PGA Tour HQ that Rory McIlroy is out there saying, essentially, I'm gonna, mail it in for the next month, and I'll see you guys at the Tour Championship. I can't imagine that was great for. I mean, there's 2 other playoff events prior to the Tour Championship.
Right,
Obviously, we just had the 3M Open, but there are 2 other playoff events, and I can't imagine the folks that host those were, oh, really? Okay, thanks, Rory.
Yeah, I mean, he went back and forth on the live thing. He's gone back and forth on a lot of things, and it almost feels to me like he speaks out of both sides of his mouth a little bit. And again, I want to like the guy, but every time he does something like that, it's such a turnoff. I don't know. It just doesn't sit well.
Yeah. Speaking of the 3M Open, Tom, we saw an amazing performance from a 21-year-old young man who announced his presence on tour with authority, Jackson Koivun. He gets out, it's his first win, obviously, in just his 13th start, if you include the starts that he had where he got a sponsor's exemption to play in, but only his 3rd start as a pro. And to give everyone a little context, oh, by the way, Tiger's first win came in his 19th start. Rory's came in his 18th start. John Rahm in 17 starts. Ludwig Oberg in 16 starts. Here this kid comes out, whether you want to say it was his 13th start or his 3rd. Pretty impressive from the young man.
Listen, he's obviously an unbelievable talent. 2-time college player of the year. had an unbelievable, college career at Auburn, and obviously a wonderful talent. I'm going to say the same thing I always say to you about these kids. Let's just pump the brakes. Remember when we thought Matt Wolff was the next Jack Nicklaus? Remember way back when I was a kid, Eddie Pierce was the next Jack Nicklaus. And we have a series of people in the history of the game where we kind of jumped out on, got way out on the end of our skis on, and then all of a sudden we were let down. So I hope it doesn't happen to him. He's be a great addition to the tour. Great bright spot. We need somebody special to kind of pump ourselves up with in golf right now and excite us. But I'm so leery now about anointing people after one victory or one special moment. Listen, obviously an unbelievable victory, unbelievably talented. I'm going to sit back and wait a week.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think we want to start anointing him anything, but it's a great start. It's a great win. Kind of had Scotty kind of putting the pressure on him. Came up and had a nice charge back to kind of put some pressure on the kid, and the kid still won by 3. So look, yeah, you're right. It's 1 week, it's one tournament, but
he looked like me on 18. He drop kicked the driver about 245, then laid up and hit a wedge 60 feet. He looked like me on 18. Looked like he had a little trouble with the oxygen on 18. But obviously a great win, great talent. I mean, is very aggressive on the golf course. Has no lack of confidence. But like I said, I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit and wait on the sidelines.
I want to get your reaction to something else, Tom, because later on in the episode, Len Furman joins me. He's the sports time traveler. He's written some books, and I follow him on Substack, and I certainly hope everybody else does. But in the conversation that you'll hear between Len and I, we talk about the 1966 U.S. Open. I know you have a photographic memory. For those who don't remember, 66 was the year that Billy Casper won the U.S. Open. That was the year that Arnold Palmer had a 7-stroke lead on the back 9.
At Olympic Club in San Francisco.
And the Olympic Club in San Francisco. And that lead gets away from him. And obviously, we go to they end up tied at the end, and they go to a playoff, and Billy wins. But one of the things that I found, because I was doing the research for when Len joins me, I was going back and listening to when Billy Casper joined me. For those who don't know, Billy Casper was the very first guest on this show, along with Gary Player.
Is that right?
That is absolutely right.
Wow.
Yeah. Very first episode back in 2013, Gary Player, Billy Casper. And in the conversation with Billy, he told the story, and you can look this up online too. As we all know, right, Arnold was trying to help Billy out, quote unquote, when they stood on the 10th tee. What can I do? I'll do anything I can to help you, which was meaning to finish second. He had a 7-stroke lead. Nicklaus was charging to kind of come up and potentially finish in the second position. Billy wanted to finish solo second. Arnie was willing to try to help whatever he could do to help him. Well, by the time we get to 18, obviously that lead is gone. They're now tied. Arnold has about a 60-foot putt on the 18th and leaves it 4 foot short. And Billy says to Arnie, because Arnie turns to him, "What do you want me to do here?" And Billy says, "Why don't you finish out while you're hot, Arnold?" And that kind of cocky comment tormented Billy for the rest of his life. One of the things that Billy did when he found out that he had a terminal disease was say to the doctor, "I need to go talk to Arnold." He's like, "I just told you you have a terminal disease. You want to go talk to Arnold Palmer?" And it was because he wanted to apologize to Arnie. He never had an opportunity to apologize to Arnie for making that comment. I thought that was a kind of an interesting sort of whole story, if you will, for what happened from 66 all the way to when Billy passed away, which is back in the 2010s. But I thought that was an interesting, reflective moment on Billy's part.
So let me make a comment about that. So I didn't know that story. Did not know that story. That's a great one. We've all done things in our life and both said things in our life. And anybody that says they have an inspire that we'd like to go back and undo, redo, or apologize. I certainly have. And it's funny, as I've gotten older, I have gone out of my way on a couple of different occasions. I won't go into the details of contacting somebody, more than more than one person, and saying, you know what, I want to right the ship. I did something or said something that was inappropriate, I should have done, and I want to apologize. Some people have said to me, I don't even remember you saying doing that. And I said, well, I do. And I think when you get a little older, you get a little more reflective on things that you've done along the way that were not kosher. I think, if you can, you have the guts to do it. You need to go back and make amends with people where you were wrong, where you made a mistake. So good on Billy Casper. Huh?
Yeah, indeed. We've all been there. Now, let's switch gears a little bit, TP. I want to talk about some of your coaching, because one of the things that I've often wondered about with respect to you, and you've worked with, like we talked about, hundreds of tour players and that sort of thing. I want to get your thought. What separates the great players from ones that are just pretty good, merely talented? What's the difference? Is it a thin line?
Well, Chris, it's a really thin line, but again, based on my experience, I can only use what I know. Looking back through all the years, all the players I've worked with, whether they're really good junior players or good college players or professionals, it's never the physical talent. It's never ever the physical talent. It has to do with what's inside in their heart. I'd rather have a B talent with an A attitude than a B attitude and an A talent. I've had some kids who, came to me that weren't particularly physically talented, but had an incredible work ethic, had an incredible desire, heart and passion, and turned out really pretty good as college players. I've had some kids come to me that were actually just superstars athletically, lazy dogs, just lazy dogs, and it never seemed to work out for them. I don't think it's a physical thing. I think it's what's inside of you as a person. Jay Wright, the great basketball coach at Villanova, was a good buddy of mine. We've had this conversations on a couple of different occasions. We've come to a complete agreement on it, that the inside outweighs the outside every time.
Speaking of pros that you've worked with over your career, Tom, Seve Ballesteros, he saw shots that no one else could even imagine. What did you learn, or if anything, when you were spending time with Seve? What did you learn about him that, from a creativity perspective, really stuck with you, or really struck you about how creative he was out on the golf course?
Well, there's a guy who really had an incredible insight. I mean, there's a guy who just believed. I mean, he never said it this way. Don't get me wrong, because it's funny, Seve's persona on the golf course was he was very difficult. I never had to compete against him. I was on the lesson tee with him when I was with him, and I certainly was on the golf course occasionally walking with him, but never had to compete against him. And the reputation was he was very difficult on the golf course. Off the golf course, he was an absolute sweetheart. I mean, he was extremely kind to me, extremely open with me. We kept in touch through the years, even when he was sick. But I really believe he believed he was destined to be great. He believed he was given a gift to be who he was. He just had a belief system that made him who he was. And I think that it taught me about attitude, taught me about desire and passion, taught me about work. It taught me about no give up. He had by the way, he had no give up at all, no give up whatsoever. I mean, look at some of the places he extracted himself from. Some believe, his hands were a gift from God, no doubt about it. He had the greatest pair of hands on the planet, and I'll put them up against the Bobby Locks of the world, Ben Crenshaws of the world, the Jordan Spieths of the world, the Raymond Floyds of the world. He had a pair of hands that could do magical things. But in concert with those hands, he had a belief system that he was destined to be great.
So speaking of the things that whether Sevi or maybe anybody else that you ever worked with that taught you things, was there a lesson that you saw that a tour player taught you that you actually ended up incorporating into the way you teach?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people, Chris. I mean, I've been influenced as much outside the sport as inside the sport. I mean, Jay Wright has had a big influence on me as far as attitude and work ethic. Bobby Knight, who I became friendly with, had a great influence on me as far as work ethic and just absolute moxie and determination. As crazy as Bobby was, I loved him to death. Jim Flick and Bill Strasbaugh both had great influence on me as far as technique side, but also both of those guys were big believers in the work ethic side. You know, I mean, I just don't think I'm going to get in trouble here. I just don't think this generation. I think there's too many distractions. I mean, it's the iPhone, it's the iPad, it's video games, social media. There's a kid that I follow on social media who I'm very friendly with. His dad. He's right now a 130 player. It's not hard to figure out who he is. I'm from New York. He's from New York, and I think the kid's got incredible talent. He spends more time posting on social media than I spend, shaving my face in the morning. I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, I get it because he's actually now an influencer and he gets paid on social media. I get the financial part of it, but I often wonder if he had no connection to social media at all, and all that extra time went to his golf game, would he be better for it? I think the work people know how hard golf is hard, man. Golf is hard. It's a fine line between being good and being great. It's a fine line between being on tour and losing your card. It's a fine line between missing a cut in the top 10. Very fine line. It's a fine line between winning and finishing 30th. It's just a fine line over 4 days of golf. How sharp you have to be, how tuned in you have to be to play at that level on a regular basis. I think there's a lot of distractions.
All right, so let's take that a step further. When you have a student that has all the physical ability but isn't getting the most out of their game, where do you start?
I'm going to get in trouble for this one. I might lose a student over this one. I have two brothers that I teach that I think, have wonderful physical talent. Okay. And for just one example, I think it was last season. It might have been the season before. We went out to do a playing lesson, the three of us together. I had one in my cart, and the other one was old enough to drive, so he had a separate cart. We're on the first hole of the playing lesson, and I look across the fairway, and he's on his phone. And I say something to him. I turn to my right with the kid in my cart, and he's on his phone. And I got to admit, I lost my mind. I just lost my mind. I said, "Give me the phones." And he looked at me like I asked him to give me their right arm. I said, "Give me your phones." I took both phones. I turned them up. I put them in my golf bag. And you thought the look on their face, I had just stabbed them in the neck with an ice pick. They were like, up, 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 up. I said, "No phones." And I contacted their father, who's a good guy, a really good guy. I said, "Here's the deal. No phones at lesson. No phones." I said, "If they bring up a phone to the next lesson, I'm going to send them home. I'm just going to send them home." So they walk out to the next lesson a week later, and I can see their phones in their pockets. I said, "Here's the deal, guys." And the Learning Center at Twin Eagles is probably 350 yards from the parking lot. So they drive a cart out to the Learning Center. I said, "I want you to put your phones in your car." And they said, "But," I said, "I want you to put your phones in your car." I said, "But you can't take the golf cart." They said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I want you to walk." I walk to your car and walk back there. "But coach, wait." I said, "Leave the cart here. Take your phones and put them in the car." I made them walk to their car, 350 yards each way. I put the phone. I said, "Do me a favor. Next time you bring your phones, you're going to walk to the car again, so you know." I can't, it makes me crazy that we're sitting there during a lesson and they're looking at their phone.
Yeah.
And they're not the only ones, by the way. It's not a single occurrence. I think that's a problem.
I agree. You can only pay attention to one thing. So yeah, I'm with you. So for players like me and our listeners, for the 15 handicap, that's looking to Tom Patri. It comes to Tom Patri and says, Tom, take me from a 15. What do I need to do to go from a 15 to a 10? And what do I need to do to go from a 10 to a 5? What are your thoughts?
Short game, short game, short game. You knew that was coming, though, didn't you?
I did.
You know, you set me up. Thanks for setting me up for that, Chris. Teed me up for that one. Listen, I mean, when I give playing lessons to a 15, you know, and I'm making a very general comment right now, I admit that. You know, a lot of my 15s don't hit the ball badly. I mean, not that they're poor players, not that they're, you know, world-class ball strikes, but they can hit the ball from tee to green in a fairly respectable manner. And then they get on or around the greens, and they turn into ice hockey players. You know, they skull one across, they chunk one, they dump one in the bunker, they skull it out of the bunker, then they three putt. I did a thing a number of years ago with a guy who wouldn't buy into the concept with me, who was a regular student, who was a good guy. I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a 9-hole playing lesson. You're going to tee off and hit your second shot. Every time you get within 30 yards of the green, you're going to play into the hole. I'm going to drop a ball on the side of you and play into the hole. And we're going to record two scores, score A and a score B. You're playing the hole, finishing it out, and me finishing the hole from 30 yards in. Now, if you're 10 yards in, that's fine. If you're in the bunker, that's fine. If you're not going to agree to regulation, I'm going to putt. But wherever you are, once you get inside 30 yards, I'm going to be your alter ego. So he said, well, I don't think that's going to prove it. So let's go do it. So we went and played 9 holes. And he shot 42 on his ball. And I shot on his ball 35, playing 30 yards in.
Wow.
7 shots difference from 6 over to 1 under. Okay. And he looked at me, he goes, okay, I'm in. What are we going to do? I said, we're going to do all short game. And I think he was a 14 at the time, to be honest. I think he was a 14 at that time. And we spent the whole second half of this, back in my Westchester days, whole second half of the season working on short game. In a half a season, he went from 14 to 8.
Wow.
Half a season. But,
yeah.
And he was a regular lesson taker, and he had a work ethic. He would do it. And he committed. He committed to short game only. And we hit millions of bunker shots, millions of pitch and chip shots. We did a bunch of putting drills. And he went from 14 to 8. And, you know, I think it was, I want to call it mid-July to October. So if that's not proof enough, then I tell people that story and they think I'm making it up. And it's a true story.
Wow.
And I just think the short game skill of the average club player, you know, I think they think you're working on their short game is 15 minutes before their tee time. You're going to putt for about 10 minutes to go to the first tee. I worked on my short game this week.
Right.
And that's ridiculous. I mean, golf, I'm going to keep saying this, golf is hard. And those shots around the greens are, yes, they're technique based, but there's so much feel involved and touch involved. And you don't develop touch and feel from a book or from a YouTube video or you know, from the Golf Channel. You develop feel by doing it a lot. And it has to be developed over time. And you have to put the time in.
So when we have a wedge in our hand, whether it's a pitching wedge down to a 60 degree, what are the most common mistakes? What are the misconceptions that we have that is preventing us from scoring better with a scoring iron in our hand?
Well, I think most people think when they have a wedge in their hand, it's kind of like having a snake in their hands. They're scared of it. You know, they're scared of chunking it. They're scared of sculling it. And a lot of that is based on setup situations. A lot of cancers in golf are born in the setup. You know, I mean, you can cure a lot of cancers by understanding how to set up for a golf ball properly. I think it's been over-taught that the ball has to be way back in your stance. Your weight has to be way forward. Your hands have to be way forward. And then you get the leading edge involved too much, and the club digs, and you chunk one, and then you're scared of that, so you back up and you flip the hands, and you skull one. You start playing ping pong with your technique. I think the ball back in your stance is over-taught. I think, you know, if you look at somebody's placket on their shirt or zipper line on their trousers, the right edge of that placket is back to me. You know, not any further back than that. And I think in terms of weight distribution, you know, it'll vary between 50-50 and maybe 55-45, not 70-30. I think your hands are slightly ahead of the club, but I mean slightly means, you know, if your club head is on the right hand of your placket, and then your hands are on the left hand of your placket, I think you create too much shaft lean sometimes, and the angle of attack gets too steep. So I think they've been brainwashed a little bit because of what they've read and misinterpreted, or I think they're teachers that teach the wrong way. Imagine that. That those things get overdone, and they lead to some bad contact quality, and then the confidence goes right down the proverbial what. And now from a confidence standpoint, you get that wedge in hand out there on a tight lie on the golf course, and it's like no bueno, no good.
So for the average weekend warrior like me that may have an hour to go out to the range a couple of times a week, or maybe only one time a week, we got an hour out there. How much time should be spent from 100 yards in versus the longer clubs that we have, driver 3 wood, fairway wood, that kind of thing? How would you split that up?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't start at 100 yards. I'd start at 30 yards. Let's do everything we can do from 30 yards and in. So anything that can potentially happen from 30 yards, a pitch, a chip, a bunker shot, what you guys call a lob shot. I don't say that. I don't use that word lob. I use elevated pitch, or putting the golf 30 yards and in. So of that hour, you should probably spend an hour.
Wow. Okay.
So if I mean that's serious, Chris. What's your handicap right now?
12.
I would bet you any amount of money if for one full season, okay, of your hour, you spend 45 minutes short and 15 minutes long for an entire season. I think you could buy me a steak dinner at Charlie's PGA merchandise show next year, and a nice bottle of Cabernet, or maybe a Merlot, and be very happy with it.
All right.
I just think, when I watch the recreational, I play with my members all the time, members that I teach and members that I don't teach. They play hockey from 30 yards and in. Hockey. It's guy's a nice little drive. He hits a shot just right of the green. He's not in bad position. The worst he's going to make is bogey. Then he walks off at 7. And how does he feel going to the next hole? How's his attitude? How's his demeanor? How's his anger and blood pressure level?
Right.
Not really good.
Yep.
I mean, or the guy hits it down the middle, hits it just right of the green, hits this beautiful little pitch up to the 5 feet, he knocks in 4. How's his attitude going to the next hole? I mean, it's like night and day.
Right.
Night and day. I mean, I'll tell one of myself. The year I won my NCAA Division II, those 72 holes, it wasn't my best ball striking week by far that year. Not even close. I made everything I looked at, and every pitch shot I hit looked like it was going in. I mean, some went to 5 feet and some went to 6 feet, but they looked like they were going in. I mean, it was like I had it on autopilot. And the reason that happened is because 3 months leading up to it, I spent every waking hour I had hitting pitch shots, chip shots, bunker shots, and putting the golf ball. I'm going to make sure that part of my game is really reliable. Well, it was beyond reliable that week, beyond reliable. I just believe that's what has to be done.
And we'll be right back. In golf, fast isn't a nice to have, fast is a necessity, and speed off the tee is where it all starts. That was precisely the thinking behind the all-new QI4D family of drivers from TaylorMade, our fastest, most fittable drivers. Built to meet the demands of the world's best players like Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Nelly Korda, and the rest of Team TaylorMade. The QI4D lineup was engineered to unlock the 4 dimensions of speed, starting with a multi-material driver head with enhanced aerodynamic shaping, combined with a faster face and our revolutionary React shaft system. The TaylorMade QI4D drivers are ready to extract every bit of speed from every golfer's unique swing profile. Our industry-leading adjustability and fitting unlocks it all. Watch the full story of QI4D, our quest to build the fastest, most fittable drivers, and unlock your newfound speed at TaylorMadeGolf.com/findingfast. You guys know what a fan I am of On Point Golf. Folks, get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only 3-dimensional ball marker with alignment technology and a removable coin. It is approved for use according to the rules of golf as defined by the USGA and the R&A. As we all know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with OnPoint, engage with your three-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line, execute the putt, and lower your scores. Folks, with the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals and amateurs alike out there using them now, it's the number one ball marker in golf that actually helps you lower your scores. Go online to onpointgolf.us, read about the science behind it, then put one in your bag and make more putts. I feel like it's the 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let OnPoint help yours as well? Again, onpointgolf.us. Check them out and get one in your bag today. Now let's talk about a piece of equipment that we all struggle with out on the golf course, and that's our sunglasses. Rated the number one glasses in golf, John Doe's Crisp Extreme lenses are the highest quality lenses in the business. They are golf-centric. They have non-polarized lenses with true depth perception, so you get to keep your glasses on for every shot. How great would that be not to have to take your glasses off and on during the course of your round? So you have true, proper depth perception every time that you're standing over the golf ball. Now, John Doe is co-owned by four-time major champion Ernie Els. Why? Because when he tried them, he immediately wanted in. John Doe, see the game differently. Go to johndoesport.com and enter promo code NOT, N-O-T-T, for Next on the Tee for a $35 discount at checkout. That's John Doe Sport, JONDOSPORT.com. I wear them on the course, when I'm driving, or just when I'm out and about. And people tell me all the time, hey man, I love your sunglasses. See the difference for yourself at johndoesport.com.
PGA Tour Superstore pros aren't born. They're made. Every January, hundreds of associates talk to the top manufacturers, learn about the latest clubs, test the newest equipment, log thousands of hours of training, and together hit over 100,000 balls, all so they can get you the perfect fit.
Now let's get back to the show. I want to do something a little different, something we haven't done before, and that's sort of like a little rapid fire round, if you will.
Go for it, man.
Best ball striker you've ever seen?
Wow, that's a hard one because I've seen so many good ones. I'd say Adam Scott.
Wow, I wouldn't have guessed you were going to go Adam Scott.
Where would you thought I would go? Okay, rapid fire. Go ahead.
Yeah. Best driver of the golf ball?
Greg Norman.
Wow, you're really killing me. Best wedge player?
Well, I would say Jordan Spieth. I'm leaning towards Seve, probably. I'm going to give you a couple. Seve, Raymond Floyd, and JT.
Wow, okay. Best putter?
Well, it's got to be the Crenshaw Faxon that I've seen personally. Although in college I played one round with, and I thought I was the best putter in the world in college. I really did. I had a lot of confidence in my putter. But I played a round of golf, a competitive round of golf with Corey Pavin. He's pretty damn good. And I played a practice round at the NCAA Division I National Championship at Ohio State. And I got a trivia question for you, Chris, coming up, with Willie Wood, if you remember that name.
I do.
And it was pretty freaking good, I'll tell you that.
Wow. Most naturally gifted golfer?
Seve.
Toughest competitor?
Raymond Floyd.
I thought you were going to go back-to-back Seve there, but I agree with you on Raymond. Funniest player you've ever been around?
Funniest?
Yeah.
That's a good question. You know, in a dry sense of humor way, because he's really kind of quirky the way he does it. But I'll tell you, Freddie Couples has a great sense of humor, man. He's a good buddy of mine. And he says some of the funniest things that he doesn't even know are funny, by the way. Some of the things that come out of his mouth are just hilarious. But he's got a great wit about him. Really good.
Which tour player has surprised you the most in history?
That's a great one. Surprised me the most. You know, in a funny way, and he's also a friend and a good guy, Faxon, because Faxon drove the ball as bad as any human being I've ever seen in my life that was a good player. I mean, you know, he couldn't drive it in the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, it was so awful. And like Seve, because of the putter and his short game and his intelligence, he's Royce Fred is a very smart guy, had a hell of a career. I mean, how many times did he win? Did he win 11 times? I'm guessing.
That sounds like a lot to me. I thought Fax won 8, but I'm just guessing.
Well, if he won 8, that's a miracle too. By the way, I mean, just on it, and was on a Ryder Cup team at one point. I mean, so if you told me he was going to go out on tour and do what he did, the way he drove the ball, I would have told you were crazy. But got an awful lot out of his game. Next,
most fundamentally sound swing you ever saw.
Adam Scott.
Back to Adam Scott again. Okay. If you could play one round of golf with anyone in history, who would it be?
Can I give you a foursome? I'm the fourth.
All right.
Bobby Jones, Arnold Palmer, and Seve Ballesteros.
Why?
Well, Bobby, those three are my idols, in golf. And yeah, I know you're not supposed to idolize anybody, but those are three people I have an incredible amount of respect for what they accomplished and how they accomplished it. Bobby was just so smart. I've read so much Bobby through the years, and and Dr. Bob Jones is a friend of both of ours, and I've studied Bobby left and right, and everything I've ever read that he wrote is just sheer brilliance. He was just such a smart player, and didn't start out that way. Was a very immature young man with a bad temper, and learned how to control it, and changed his whole life with his ability to grow up and mature. So I love that. And then Arnold and Seve, for the same reason, their tenacity. I mean, just no give up, man. Just no give up at all. And my son's first name, my son's initials are PJ. We call him PJ. His first name is Palmer. I named him after Arnold. So if that's not enough of a tribute and how much I respected Arnold, there you go.
There you go. Whose cart are you riding in? Who are you riding in the cart with?
I'd probably ride with Bobby, to be honest with you.
Is that right?
Yeah, I want to learn the smarts. I want to hear what's inside there, how that ticked.
Tom, before I let you go,
whoa, back up.
What?
I got a trivia question for you.
Uh-oh. All right.
Who is the only player in NCAA golf history to play in 4 NCAA championships in 2 years? And how did he do that?
Ooh. You got me. Tell me.
His name is Tom Patri.
Tom Patri?
So here's what happened. Back when I played, if you finished in the top 3 in Division II, you got to go to the Division I National Championship the following week. So my junior year, I finished second and lost by a shot in Division II, and I got to go to Ohio State. And my senior year, as you know, I won, and I got to go to Stanford. The only player in NCAA history to play in 4 NCAAs in 2 years.
Wow. Look at you. You go, TP.
That's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
All right, so remind our listeners, how can they find you?
I don't really care how they find me except for Next on the Tee. I'm on with the greatest podcast golf host in the world. And how many shows have I done with you, Chris?
137 now.
137. So, and I don't have to blow any smoke up your rear end because we're good friends. We've been doing this for a long time together. And I'm on I get invited on some other podcasts now and then. And there's a couple of really nice guys out there do a nice job. Nobody gets on. And I saw your post this week with all those clips of guys saying nice things about you. Everything they said wasn't a nice thing. It was true. The Tim Simpson comment, the Gary Player comment. I listen to all those things you post as you do with my stuff. Nobody gets on every week, has better guests, is more prepared, asks better questions, and does better follow-up than Chris Mascaro. So who cares how to find Tom Patri? Make sure you find Chris Mascaro and Next on the Tee.
I appreciate you, my friend. That means a great deal to me, as do you. Be safe on the rest of the drive. Don't fall asleep.
I'll be okay.
Say hello to Miss Denise when you get there, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next couple of days.
Love you, pal. Thank you.
Right back at you, my friend. That is the great Tom Patri, folks. And TomPatri.com is his website. Go out there and check that out. And then give him a follow. He's got a couple of different places where you can find him on Instagram. He's got TP Golf and he's got Tom Patri Golf. Make sure you go out there and check out both of those sites and give him a follow on there. And then look, you got a lot of things over the years from Tom. You got a couple of tidbits here about this tip or that tip or the other tip. We really want to take your game to the next level. We're coming down to the end of the summer. But if you're down in Florida, you got all year round. If you're out in Arizona and places like that, you got all year round. Reach out to Tom, because some of the things that you can also do is through V1 Golf, you can get a video lesson with Tom. You can choose Tom as your instructor. You can send him videos of what you're doing, and you can work with Tom all year round, no matter where you are, anywhere in the world, by the way. But for those that can get out all year long to get out to a tee, get out to a practice range, get out to play your golf, you can take TP with you. The other thing you can do is subscribe to his YouTube channel. Bring your phone with you. Bring your little tripod. Get out there and watch some of the videos that Tom has and perfect your swing that way. So whether it's V1, whether it's a YouTube channel, whether you're going on his website or you're listening here every other Tuesday night when he joins me, there's a lot of ways that you can take one of the top 100 alumni instructors in the history of our game and make your game better. And I like what Tom had to say there, because one of the things, and I tee him up a little bit, because you've heard him say over the years, short game, short game, short game. But those things, when I go to a driving range, one of the things that just makes me laugh and I shake my head is a guy comes up next to me, puts his bag down, immediately goes for the driver, and then for the next 45 minutes, he's hitting drivers. And I understand. We all want distance. We've been chasing it for a long time. We buy new equipment. We get the right golf balls and all that sort of stuff because we want to hit it as far as we can. But what Tom was trying to say and what I wanted him to kind of get to is the best way to shave strokes off for weekend warriors like me. If you're a 10, if you're a 15, if you're a 20 plus, right? How many putts do we make? How many times do we make, or how many putts do we take in the course of a round? What's the percentage of the time we have a putter in our hand versus anything else? When we're 30 yards in, how many times do we have a wedge in our hands? To Tom's point, how many times do we play hockey where we're knocking the ball over and back and forth and all those sort of things, right? How many times are we losing strokes because we spent the majority of our time with a driver in our hand instead of where we're actually losing the strokes? I mean, every yard I get is precious, but if you're someone like me, when you're going to drive the ball 230 maybe, and if you got an extra 10 and you got to 240, how much better is that going to make your golf game versus if I didn't three putt, if I wasn't hitting it back and forth across the green, if I could chip it to within 2 or 3 feet and make that putt, to Tom's example earlier, where you're walking off with a par as opposed to a 6 or a 7. I mean, I think about those things. Really take a good look at your game. Look at the data. Start to track some things. How many times are you hitting a fairway in regulation? How many times are you getting on a green in regulation? And how many putts do you make, right? Or how many putts do you take? So track that stuff. And then you'll be able to quickly identify where should I be spending the majority of my time. And to one of the comments Tom made, right? If you got an hour, spend an hour on your short game. And I think you're going to see, and I'm certainly going to take that to heart myself, how many strokes can we save ourselves because instead of chasing the extra 10 yards, we chase the extra 10 strokes that we're taking because we're not prepared to go out there and play really well from 30 yards in. Anyway, Tom's great. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll catch up with him again in a couple of weeks. And we'll be right back. You guys have heard me talking about and bragging about the things that are going on up at Macklemore. It's an unbelievable golf resort and destination. Let me remind you about what they have going on this year. Get ready to experience a game like never before at the Keep, the brand new Bill Bergen and Reese Jones co-designed course at Macklemore. With its challenging layout and awe-inspiring views, every round here is an unforgettable adventure. Whether you're taking on the signature holes or just soaking in the scenery, the Keep is where your best golf meets nature's finest backdrop. So grab your clubs and join us up at Macklemore. The Keep is open and it's waiting for you. And folks, if you haven't tried 2 Under yet, you really need to. Why? Well, from the first tee to the clubhouse, 2 Under's Joey Pouch is going to keep you comfortable and locked in all round or all day. Build your own bundle by going online to 2under, that's the number 2, UNDR.com, and save up to 20%. Okay, now back in Next on the Tee with me is one of the top instructors in our game, Virgil Herring. Let me remind you about Virgil's background. He earned his degree in marketing and professional golf management at Mississippi State University. A couple of years later, he started his high-performance golf academy in Nashville, Tennessee. Just a few years after that, Virgil was named the 2003 Tennessee Section Teacher of the Year. He has been named the Middle Tennessee Chapter Teacher of the Year 5 times. U.S. Kids named him one of their top 50 instructors. Future Champions Golf named him a top 25 elite coach back in 2015, and that year he won the Tennessee Teacher of the Year award for a second time. MSN has named Virgil a top 10 keynote speaker. He hosted an event called the Ryder Cup of Wine, which was spotlighted in the PGA magazine, which we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. Virgil has worked with tour pros like Brent Snedeker, Harry Taylor, Brad Fable, Kim Williams, and Megan Grehan. He's helped over 220 players get a college scholarship. He's also written 3 books titled Excavated, Elevated, and The Golf Journal Improving Your Game. You can check all 3 of those out on his website, virgilherring.com, or out on Amazon. You can hear him on his podcast, Fairways to Fortune, and I couldn't be more excited that I get to have Virgil back here this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Virgil, how are you, my friend?
Chris, thank you very much, buddy. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there, my friend. But it's been a minute since I got to spend some time with you, which is all my fault. My apologies, but catch us up. What's been going on with you so far this year?
Well, I've been very fortunate ever since my TED Talk that I got picked up by the most famous sports executive of all time, David Meltzer. So David Meltzer, for those of you who don't know, is basically Jerry Maguire. So his contact list and all the things that he's been able to connect me with and through has taken my public speaking and my Ryder Cup of Wine event to a whole new level. And we also have created a business together where we travel around to the most exclusive clubs around the world, especially those that are trying to sell real estate and properties within their club. If they're struggling to do so, we come in and bring some VIPs and hopefully help them move it. And it's a good business model for us. We got one coming up actually this week in Breckenridge. So I get a chance to get my speaking in and get a chance to do a Ryder Cup of Wine and help another company help move some property, and everybody wins. It's a great situation.
All right, so you got to tell us this Ryder Cup of Wine. What's it all about? And since I've seen some of your videos about it, and where you talk about the U.S. is undefeated in it, how can we translate that to the U.S. Ryder Cup team?
That turns out to be a very popular question throughout the evening. So basically, I try to tell people I only know about 4 things in life, and wine and golf are 2 of the 4. And they have a similar story, which is the European wines, especially the French wines, up until 1976 were widely considered the best wines in the world, and there was really no competition. And there was this pretty bizarre event called the Judgment in Paris, where America was trying to find its way into the conversation. And with all the best wine tasters in the world, had a blind tasting, and Stag's Leap Wine Cellars out of Napa Valley won the event over all the top Bordeaux's and all the top Cabernets around the world. And it kind of put America on the map. Well, if you flip it over, America dominated the Ryder Cup up until basically 1983. And at 1985, there was a guy named Seve Ballesteros that kind of changed the narrative in the Ryder Cup. So at about the same time, they flip-flopped. There was a time in which it was all Europe and wine, and all of a sudden America turned into the juggernaut of Cabernet Sauvignon and certainly the powerful wines, and vice versa. The Europeans began to dominate the Ryder Cup after America literally dominated it from its inception. So they kind of crisscross at about the same timeline. And the event is usually there's 5 different varietals tasted. So the one that I'm going to be doing in Breckenridge will be, it'll be a Sauvignon Blanc, a Pinot Noir, a Rhone Valley wine, a Cabernet blend, and then a Champagne and a sparkling wine. And there'll be one from Europe and one from America, and we'll taste it blind. And while the wines are being tasted blind, I will tell a story give a lesson or life lesson, business lesson, or whatever, that it has to do with being motivated and do things to the best of your ability. I'll do a lesson based around the characteristic of a wine or what the wine makes me think of as a way to kind of tell a story and weave good, wholesome things into the situation. And after about 10 or 12 minutes of storytelling, everybody's tasted the wine, and I asked who likes wine number one, and we'll take a tally, and let's just say there's 45 people at the event. So 16 people think that wine number one was the best, and 29 people think that wine number two is the best. I uncover it, and we find out that America's leading 1-0. And so take away those glasses, bring out new glasses, we pour the wines, and I repeat the process 5 times. I only give 1 golf lesson. I usually give 3 motivational lessons and 1 business lesson. And when the event's over, we talk about the importance of community, the importance of human connection, and how the art of winemaking, the art of food, and how they come together and create a situation for people to sit around a table and talk and experience the art of the food and the wine creates the connection that everybody's starving for in the world today. And about 3 years ago, when I did my TED Talk, this became one of the more popular things to have me do as it pertains to my TED Talk and the motivation behind it, where that took my passion for wine and my passion for guiding people from where they are to where they want to be. And it's turned into this outrageously awesome and fun event that is around wine, food, and golf. And everybody thinks, I love being around people who love wine and think they know wine, and find out how little they know about wine as soon as they can't read the label when they're drinking it. And it's pretty fun to watch people proclaim, oh, this is definitely a Bordeaux, and only to find out that it was Joseph Phelps Insignia out of Napa Valley. It really, and it makes the whole evening, because everybody wants to feel like they know, and it doesn't take long until they're humbled. And when people are humbled, they become more open to learning. They become more open to the experience, and their pretension goes away, and they become way more open to talk with, and they get to know other people. And it turns into really one of the coolest things that I've ever done. And I've been able to coach players to play in major championships and USGA events champions and 6 national champions and a host of other accolades in teaching golf. But there's something about being able to bring a bunch of people together. Maybe half of them don't even play golf. And they're like the one that I did recently up in Canoe Brook in New Jersey. I think there were 65 people, and I think 30 of them were the wives or partners of the people that were in my, like the playing lessons that I was doing. And the women were like, oh God, I don't want to be here to listen to golf all the time. And they didn't even hear about golf. And it was the women that proclaimed the event so great. And that's what led me to another event in Baltusrol. And it cascades because people believe that I'm going to give golf lessons and technical expertise on how to swing it, putt it, pitch it, chip it, what have you. And I don't ever really talk about it. I tell stories about what we've seen in legendary golf events, how they pertain to your life, how it pertains to what it takes to overcome, to persevere, to be resilient, how to think. And really some of the most important things we've ever seen in life have occurred on the golf course. Not so much who beat who, but what we learn from who beat who. And sometimes people just need a story to attach to their difficulties and let them know that there's hope on the other side. Because if that person can do it, I can do it. And I just love the ability to create an atmosphere of hope and togetherness, and to realize that nobody's alone. You're not the only person experiencing pain. And when we get people together and experience this through food, wine, community, and storytelling, it turns into a magical evening. And it's something I'm so proud of and so excited to do.
As you should be. It sounds fantastic, Virgil. So that feels like it bleeds over when you talk about lessons and guiding people. Do those kind of same principles bleed over to when you're doing a keynote address or when you're doing your TEDx talks?
Absolutely. Because, when I'm up on stage, right, all eyes are on me and there's nobody talking. So I have to hit it a home run early. I got to capture people's attention, make them want to listen. So I have to have something that's front loaded that almost everybody can feel, everybody can attach to. And as soon as I can get you to attach to it, I'm going to try to make you laugh. And somewhere in the next 5 minutes after that, I'm going to try to get you close to crying. And if I get all of those emotions involved, you're with me. And when you're with me, General Colin Powell in his book said that before I ask for your hand in leadership, I'm going to touch your heart. And Colin Powell has been a huge influence on me. And I always try to touch people's heart before I ask for their hand. And if you're going to pay money to come see me speak, I want it to feel like I was talking with you, not to you.
Yeah.
And one of the most important factors in it is storytelling. It's not so much about the facts of the information. It's the ability to tell stories that people can attach themselves to and feel like they're a part of because they've watched it. They felt it. I mean, I can't tell you how many people watched The Miracle on Ice.
Right.
And to understand why, if you're not the best at something, if you know that you're not Steve Jobs, if you know you're not Tiger Woods, if you know you're not Tom Brady, why should you continue to work as hard as you possibly can to be the best that you possibly can? And my answer to that is because if you don't have a place setting for opportunity at your table, when she knocks and sees that she wasn't invited, she goes to the next house. The United States hockey team prepared to win, knowing that the chances of winning probably weren't that high, but they weren't going to let that stop them. And they prepared and won probably the most incredible upset in all of sports history. And if it's not, it's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of it.
Yep.
And that would be a reason why, if you're a person in a small town and whatever profession you're in, why should you continue to improve your skill set to be the best that you can be? Is because you never know when it's your turn. And if you're not prepared for when it's your turn, more than likely, you're not getting that opportunity again.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
And that's, it's one thing to hear about, oh, you got to try to be 1% better every day and do this, but it's a whole different other picture when you sit back and in your mind, you're visualizing USA beating the Soviet Union in the Olympics in 1980 in hockey, which is literally almost unbelievable at the time. That might have been the greatest hockey team ever in NHL, over NHL or anybody, because that was before the Russians could even play in the NHL. That if they could do it, and how unlikely that was, why can't you? Because you're not that far behind compared to where the US was and the Russians were in hockey. And if you have that ability to visualize what that felt like, it makes it easier for you to keep going. And that's just really one of the most important things. And when I get done speaking, every time, thank the Lord at this particular moment, every time, it takes about 3 hours for me to leave because of how many people speak with me after I'm done. And I never most of the time I'm teaching one-on-one golf lessons. So they end and the next person walks in. It is really humbling to know that the stories that I've watched, the things that I've read, the experiences that I've been through can resonate and touch people to a point that they will get out of their seat and walk to the stage and want to tell me what it is that happened in this last 30 minutes to an hour and how much it impacted them. It's like, that's the greatest feeling that I've ever had. And that's what's now trading. I still teach a lot of golf, and I'm not saying that I don't, but it makes me so excited to go speak like I am going to be on Thursday, is because I can't wait for that feeling again of being able to tell stories that take people that are struggling and give them hope and give them something that they can cling to and visualize, so that they can also persevere through it. And if I can play just a teeny little role in being a vessel that helps people get from where they are to where they want to be, that's the coach in me. That's the same thing I do in the golf swing or teaching golf. I just get a chance now to go outside of the game to help people on a bigger platform, and it's one of the greatest gifts of my life.
So let's take that a step further, Virgil. I have to imagine when you have those opportunities after the speech is over and now the people are making their way or made their way to the stage to talk to you, they've got to have shared some unbelievable stories with you. Are there some that you can share with us that really ended up touching you right back?
Well, I went through a pretty painful divorce about 4 years ago, and I thought that maybe mine was the worst. But when I share my story and then I hear other stories, it lets me know that, one, I'm not even close to being the worst. And I'm fortunate to have gotten out of it in a situation that I did. And my kids are okay and everybody's fine. But there are other situations that were not. And to watch both men and women tell me stories of their pain and what happened to them, and to know, like, hearing my story and how I came through it really impacted them, it lets me know that my pain was for naught. It wasn't because it was a waste. It was because God was putting me through something to make me a vessel to help others going through much worse situations. And when I hear those stories, and then when you deal with trauma and tragedy, you hear all kinds of terrible stories. But people are listening to your story and they're empathizing with you. And all at the same time, they're experiencing a level of self-empathy that they need to give themselves grace for, that they're generally not doing because they're in the midst of it. But you give them a break from their own pain to listen to somebody else's, and it changes their life. And so, like, that's been cool. And then, you always run into the golfer too, who was a great high school player that didn't really ever come to as good as he wanted to be in college. But at about 26, he finds it. And hearing stories about people that didn't have great college careers that ended up making it on the tour, giving them hope to keep going. And those things, you think that they're just stories, but they're like a lifeblood to people because they can visualize it. And that to me is the greatest gift of it all.
So let's talk about the gifts that you give, because you talk about breakthroughs. And we talk on this show a lot, Virgil, about the mental side of the game. And there's a lot of times when we are carrying something with us. I got to imagine when you're in teaching your folks, or whether it's a junior player or more of an elite player, there are a lot of times when we need to also give ourselves a break out on the golf course. There are times when we get in our own way out on the golf course. There's the negative self-talk that we do. When you're coaching one of your elite players, what are some of the things that you help them do, recognize, understand that if they are bottled up, if you will, and not able to get to the next level because there's something inside that they can't seem to get past? How do you help them get past it and have those breakthroughs?
Well, the first thing is, like, when you listen to somebody tell their story, how much of it's true and how much of it's feeling. And then they're like, well, a lot of it's how I feel. It's not necessarily true. It just feels like it's true. So we try to get to the truth. And then once we find the real truth, we start to try to break it down. Like, what is it that's causing you this anger that's making you slam clubs or berate yourself? And I always choke, or I always think about the wrong things as I set up over really important shots. And I'm like, is there something in your life that is judging you on your performance? And if you don't perform, the judgment is really harsh And thus you feel like if you get angry, it looks like you're trying and you're also mortified by your performance. And it doesn't look like you don't care. And they oftentimes look at me like I just smashed him in the forehead with a sledgehammer, because more times than not, the outbursts that we see in junior golfers are the fear of judgment from somebody else, whether it be a parent, a friend, whoever, because they no longer feel free. And usually that comes from potential. At age 13 or 14, the girl or boy starts to show promise that they could be a very good player. And then they get heaped praise on how great they are and how great they're going to be. And then if those people don't play golf and realize how difficult the game is and how we have very few Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus's, but we have a whole lot of Billy Horschels, you know, you can't really call Billy Horschel's career a failure. God, what a great guy and what a great player. But more times than not, they're comparing themselves to Tiger Woods. I'm like, that's so unfair. But when they get judged because they didn't perform under the gun, the judgment isn't on what can they learn to be better the next time, because it's just an opportunity to get better. Instead, they take it personal and they almost like eat it and digest it. And then they manifest and it comes out of their pores over and over and over again, because the trauma of failing, they cling to it instead of just using it as a learning moment. And to me, that's one of the most important things to help kids with, is like help them understand what's causing all the emotion, because it's interference. And the greatest mathematical equation for my coaching is self-image is the outcome. And what that means is that all of your God-given talents minus the interference you put in front of it, equals what ended up happening. So in some ways, I like to say, if you think about Tiger Woods' 2009 PGA Championship, Tiger Woods had $1 million worth of talent, more talent than anybody's ever had. But he woke up that Sunday morning and got a phone call finding out his life was about ready to change, and not in a good way. And he had like $700,000 worth of interference because of the turmoil that was about ready to come landsliding down on his life. So he was only playing with $300,000 worth of talent. And that's how a guy like Y.E. Yang, who was given $650,000 worth of talent, but only had $150,000 worth of interference because he was playing with Tiger Woods and it was his first major championship in the final group. So why did Y.E. Yang win? His God-given talent minus what was interfering with him was significantly more valuable than somebody else's grotesque talent with a lot more interference. And that's really one of the most important things that I try to get people to understand is my job is to reduce the interference that is blocking your God-given talent from showing up when you want it to show up the most. And oftentimes people cannot believe the amount of interference that they're putting in their way that's interfering with themselves.
That is absolutely brilliant. I tell you, Virgil, the thing that I do agree with you that you mentioned just a little bit ago is where we start to self-sabotage is because of that fear of judgment. And in some people's case, like you mentioned, it can be a parent, and others, I think it's just your peers, the people that might be there watching. It could be the kids back at school. It could be any number of things get in the way. And then all of a sudden, everything starts to go sideways. You mentioned the word noise. We get the noise in our head, and the thing that we feared would happen comes to fruition. How do you get through to somebody to get rid of that fear of judgment and just play for the joy of playing?
Well, there's a lot of ways, but this is my favorite story to tell on this. There's a lot of people that get negative and they become what I call don't kings. Just don't hit it left. Just don't hit it right. Just don't hit it in the water. Just don't miss this putt. They get what they don't want to occur. So this is 2008. There was he actually does PGA Tour radio now, Ned Michaels. And Ned was playing in a Hooters Tour event, and he was in last place going into the final round. And he called me the night before and he said, I just always think about what I don't want to do right before I hit the shot. Just don't hit it left here. Just don't miss the green short right, And I said, hey, Ned, I want you to do me a favor tomorrow. If you understand that the brain really doesn't comprehend the word don't, and whatever the last couple of words in your sentence are is the only thing your brain sees. Like, you can think of any color, but just don't think of the color yellow. Everybody thinks of yellow. I said, why don't you get up on the first tee tomorrow and say, under no circumstances should you hit it right down the middle of the fairway. And then you get up to your approach shot and you say, no matter what, do not hit it close to the hole. And then you get up to your putt and say, of all the things I don't want you to do, please don't make this in the middle of the cup. So through 17 holes, Ned was 13 under par.
Oh, my.
And went from worst to first.
Wow.
And he walks on to the 18th tee, and the marshal who's standing on the 18th tee says, congratulations, son. You've gone from worst to first. The 18th hole was a 497-yard par 5. So if he birdies it, he shoots 57.
Wow.
He gets up, it's water on the left, water on the right. He says to himself, just don't hit it in the water and you win. Makes double, shoots 61, and finishes third.
Oh.
So sometimes you can hack your brain, because even if you feel as though you have to have this don't mentality because you play out of a level of fear, you can spin the fear into a positive. And what ended up happening is, we know that visualization is a critical piece to playing great golf. And what he ended up doing is he started to get really, really creative and vivid with what he called his stupidity, by saying, don't hit a 15-yard cut that goes up about at that tree limb and cut it right back to the middle of the fairway. Or don't make this fall in the left side of the hole. Like, he became way more vivid in his storytelling, in his double negative. And the more vivid he got, the more fluid he played. And it was just a brilliant display of what happens to the mind. And if the right amount of visualization, the right amount of creativity, it lightened the mood inside of his mind, because he later on told me that he could not believe the stupidity that was coming out of his mouth, that he had to go to that level to think positive, but he loved it because it took away the fear of trying to be perfect.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic. I'm going to try that. Next time I go play golf and I see the trouble out there, I am absolutely going to do that to myself.
Just don't hit it down the middle of the fairway, Chris.
Exactly. I would just not do that. Virgil, you're awesome, my friend. This time just absolutely flew by. I had 4 pages worth of notes and we got to 2 of them. So I hope I get this opportunity and this privilege of having you back on the show again before too long.
I'm happy to do it anytime, Chris. It's an honor to be here with you, buddy.
Let everybody know, Virgil, how can they stay up to date with all the great things you're out there doing, whether they're following you on your website or they're doing it on social media?
Well, pretty soon I'm going to have the opportunity to be on ABC on a TV show called In the Spotlight. That'll give an opportunity for people to see what I do and how I do when it comes to the mental coaching. You can go to my website, which is virgilherring.com, and you'll be able to see all the things between the Ryder Cup of Wine, my golf coaching, my public speaking, books, etc. And the best way to find out like how I go about my business is on Instagram, which is virgil.herring.
Virgil, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to come back and be a part of the show. I'm already anticipating the next time I get to spend some time with you. You're awesome.
My pleasure, buddy. Look forward to it.
Take care, Virgil. All the best in your family. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, buddy.
See you, man. That's the great Virgil Herring, folks. How great is that guy, right? With all of these wonderful tidbits about, preparing to win, making sure that you're ready when opportunity knocks on the door, right? We're all not that far behind. I think that's something that we all have to give ourselves a break and really understand. I mean, I think we look at ourselves sometimes and we're certainly in this game, right? Where am I from a handicap? How close am I, or how far am I from whatever I'm trying to break through, trying to break 100, trying to break 90, trying to break 80, whatever it is, right? And we start to think, I'm so far behind. Well, you're not that far behind. It's a couple of things here, a couple of things there. And a lot of times, like I say, we get in our own way mentally. The things that Virgil talked about, we've talked about other times as well, right? Seeing where you want the ball to go, not where you don't want it to go. And then I love this idea of don't hit this one in the fairway. Just don't hit this one close to the cup. Just don't make this putt down right in the middle. I love that idea, and I'm certainly going to be using that the next time I go play. But Virgil's a guy who has just done so many wonderful things over the course of his career. We went through it in his intro, but he has made that and built that, and now look what he's going to in the spotlight. Can't wait to see him on TV. So I'm going to be checking that out. Write that down, right? In the spotlight. Hopefully that comes up soon, and then go out there and check him out on Instagram, Virgil.Herring. Herring is the spelling of his last name. Go out there, check that out, follow him there, check him out on his website. So much great content from Virgil and so much great advice in the last 30 minutes. I'm going to go back and re-listen to it. I hope you'll bookmark it, go back and listen to it. Let's get these thoughts in our head. Let's get them ingrained, because it's going to make a world of difference, not just in your golf game, but in your life as well. So we'll catch up with Virgil again before too long. And we'll be right back. Golf season is back, and Sunday Swagger just made sure you're going to be ready. Their new spring collection just dropped. They've got 60 bold, performance-driven styles for men, women, and youth. And if all that isn't enough, well, they just linked up with Pennzoil and Team Penske for a race-inspired collection that brings serious trackside energy to the fairways. With styles for men, women, and youth, you're guaranteed to turn heads and spark conversation when you wear Sunday Swagger. Visit SundaySwagger.com, join the Sunday Club for exclusive drops and member benefits, and folks, Sunday Swagger is going to give you what? Polos with personality. Again, check them out online, SundaySwagger.com. And folks, Squares Golf, best golf shoes on the planet by far. It's not a gimmick, it's not marketing, it's science. Let's hear why they say it, and I say it as well.
You've heard of Squares, and there's a reason why. Because the best swings in golf don't start with your hands. They start from the ground up. Most golf shoes are built for looks, not performance. Squares breaks the mold. Our patented design gives your toes room to engage the ground, creating more stability, balance, and solid contact. Your same swing, now powered from the ground up. Experience the Squares advantage at squares.com. Squares. Performance starts where you stand.
All right, now back to more of the show. Okay, now back in Next on the Tee with me is the sports time traveler, Len Furman. If you haven't listened to his podcast yet, go check it out on Spotify and follow him on Substack because his articles are simply outstanding. Len has also written some great books, including The 1973 Mets You Gotta Believe, Great Golf Tournaments Volume 1, and his latest, The 1955 Brooklyn Dodgers, My Dad's Team. All of them you can get out on Amazon. He's also published a college textbook, Business Creativity and Innovation, Perspectives and Best Practices, that is being used by several universities. He's currently an adjunct professor at the University of North Florida in Jacksonville, which followed a 15-year run at Bank of America, where he was the SVP of Innovation and Ideation. Going back to his college days, he earned his undergraduate degree in economics and an MBA at Duke, and I could be more excited that I get to spend some more time with him this week right here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Len, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thanks so much, Chris. That was a real flattering introduction, and it's always fantastic to be on your show. Thanks for having me back.
I appreciate you. Len, as you know, I'm a big fan of your articles on Substack. I was commenting to you how much I enjoy certainly a few of them that are at the top of my list, starting with what you wrote about the 1966 U.S. Open at the Olympic Club in San Francisco. That leaderboard was full of all-time greats. It was ultimately, unfortunately, one of the worst collapses in golf history, painful for one legend and his army of fans, and an amazing triumph for another legend who just happened to be one of the very first guests on the first episode of this show back in 2013. Take us through that story.
Oh, well, thank you very much for this opportunity. This is really an incredible story. And what I do as the sports time traveler is I pick an event back in time. And then I pretend to go back in time through the newspaper archives and actually relive day by day the event by reading all the different newspaper accounts of it. And I couldn't wait to do this for the 1966 US Open. So back in June, when we hit the 60-year anniversary, I started reading the newspapers about a week before. And what I found just astounded me. First of all, the names of the players that were in this tournament were incredible. Starting with Johnny Miller. Johnny Miller was a 19-year-old who had just finished his freshman year at BYU, and he played in a qualifier for the US Open out in Salt Lake City. And he beat 75-year-old Chick Evans in a sudden death playoff to earn the right to go to San Francisco to play in the qualifier. Now, Chick Evans, for a lot of fans who don't know, won the 1916 US Open. And Chick and Bobby Jones are the only ones to ever win a US Open and US Amateur in the same year. Chick did that in 1916. And here Miller, at 19, beats the 75-year-old Chick Evans and earns his ticket to the qualifier. In the qualifier, he finishes third, and Johnny Miller earned a spot at 19 years old to play at the Olympic Club in the 1966 US Open. And here's another just thrilling thing I found in the newspaper archives. So a few days before the tournament, Johnny got to meet Jack Nicklaus for the first time and the same day play a practice round with Nicklaus. And Miller got hot. He birdied 8, 9, 10, and 12, and he beat Jack Nicklaus, who is in the prime of his career, who has just won the Masters for the third time and is thinking Grand Slam, and he loses in a practice round to 19-year-old Johnny Miller. Now, also in the tournament was 53-year-old Ben Hogan. He was the oldest man in the field. And the interesting thing about Hogan was he had won 4 US Opens. And the last time the US Open had been at the Olympic Club in 1955, he had very famously lost in a playoff to Jack Fleck. And Hogan, as a lot of people know, had suffered that near fatal accident in 1949, which left him unable to walk the golf course more than a few times a year. So he had to pick and choose when he played. And after 1961, Hogan decided he was done playing qualifiers for the US Open. But in 1966, the USGA, they really wanted him there to celebrate the 11th anniversary, the first time the US Open was back at Olympic Club since his famous playoff loss. So they gave him a special exemption. It was the first time in the history of the US Open that they ever gave an exemption to anybody to play. And Hogan told reporters he was not just there for a ceremonial trip there at age 53. He said he wants to win number 5. And this made actually Arnold Palmer, one of the other favorites, very angry, because Palmer thought if they gave a special exemption to Hogan, why not one to Sam Snead? Snead had played in every US Open since 1938, but Snead had tried to qualify, as everybody else had to, for the 1966 US Open, but he didn't make it. So Palmer was kind of coming to Snead's defense, and the USGA did not offer that exemption to Snead, and that broke Snead's streak of US Open appearances.
Wow.
So we get to the first, and then there was 2 more, just want to mention this quickly, 2 more future famous US Open players. Lee Trevino, by a single stroke, qualified in the Texas sectional qualifier. So Lee Trevino, who nobody knows, is an assistant club pro in El Paso, has his ticket to the US Open. And Hale Irwin is a 20-year-old University of Colorado student who had just been an all Big 8 defensive back the season before, and he also qualified. He won the Colorado sectional qualifier. So Hale Irwin also played in his first US Open in 1966.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's a really incredible field. Now we get to round 1, and Hogan actually has a pretty good round, shoots 72. He's in 16th place. More importantly, he beats Jack Fleck by 7 shots, so he gets kind of revenge on Jack Fleck's playoff loss 11 years ago. And Hogan's only 1 shot behind the favorites, behind Arnie and Jack. Now, as usually happens in US Opens, there's an unknown who shoots an incredible round. In this case, it was Al Mengert, shot a 67 to take the lead on the first day. And Johnny Miller shot a 70 on the first day. So he was ahead of Arnie and Jack, and he was in 5th place. Now, on the second day, Palmer shoots a 66, and he moves into a tie for first with Billy Casper. Palmer could have led all by himself, but he missed 4-footers on the 17th and 18th holes. The first round leader, Menger, he shoots a 77, and he's kind of out of it. Miller and Nicholas ended tied for fifth place at +2, 5 shots back of Palmer after the second round. And so that meant that Miller and Nicholas would be paired once more, this time on a Saturday at the U.S. Open. And Hogan shot a 73, and he made the cut, but he's 8 shots back. But most notably, Jack Fleck missed the cut, and Trevino and Irwin both snuck in and also made the cut. So now we get to round 3, and Palmer shoots a 70, take a 3-shot lead over Billy Casper, who shot a 73. And Casper feels dejected. He tells the Los Angeles Times, "After the way I played, I'm just happy to be playing tomorrow." And meanwhile, Nicholas shoots a 69, and he handily beats Johnny Miller, who shot 74. No surprise there. So Miller moves into third place, sole position of third, 4 shots behind Palmer. And by the way, there was a couple of touching moments at the end of the third round when Nicholas and Miller finished. They said Miller was the Olympic Club was actually where he had learned to play golf, so he had a little bit of advantage that weekend. And he got an ovation they said was equal to the ovation that had been given to Ben Hogan that day. And Prescott Sullivan, the famous sports writer from the San Francisco Examiner, was there. And he said a sight we'll long remember was the two of them, Nicholas and Miller, leaving the 18th green together after the round. Nicholas had a big friendly arm around Johnny's shoulder. And then Prescott Sullivan says something that just floored me. He said, at 26, Nicholas is only 26 at this time. At 26, Nicholas has made it. But you watch Johnny Miller 7 years from now, when he's 26, he might have made it too. Now, the interesting thing about that is you go 7 years forward from 1966, and you're at 1973. And that's when Johnny Miller got his famous 63 in the final round to win the U.S. Open at Oakmont. So What a prescient statement by Prescott Sullivan there.
Indeed.
But on this day, Miller shoots 74, so he's 9 shots back. He's pretty much out of winning the U.S. Open in 1966, but a really great showing for a 19-year-old. And Ben Hogan had ballooned to a 76 in the third round, so he's 14 shots back. He's not going to win his 5th U.S. Open, but he has a very firm goal. He wants to finish in the top 15, because then you get an automatic qualifying spot for the U.S. Open the next year, and he wouldn't have to go through the qualifying rounds. Now, at this point, some of the sports writers were just stunned at Ben Hogan's play. Because he didn't play a lot of these sports writers didn't get to see him play. Arthur Daly, a celebrated sports writer in the New York Times, he had a column for many years called Sports of the Times. He wrote that Hogan is the best golfer I ever saw. If he could putt, no one in this tournament would be close to him. On his iron shots, he's so far ahead of anyone else that I don't even know who rates second. So Hogan was actually playing golf very well. He just couldn't putt late in his career. Yeah. Now we get to the 4th round. And so coming into this 4th round, you really have just 3 men who have a reasonable chance to win the U.S. Open. And they happen to be the best 3 players on the PGA Tour. The big 3 at that time was Nicholas, Palmer, and Player. But the giants of the PGA Tour were really Palmer, Nicholas, and Billy Casper, because Billy Casper at this time has won 29 times, and he's the number 2 all-time money winner. Palmer's number 1, and by the end of the year, Jack Nicklaus is going to be number 3. So you've got the 3 guys who by the end of this year, 1966, are going to be the top 3 money winners in history, and they're the 3 guys who are really the only ones who have a reasonable chance to win the U.S. Open. Palmer's in front by 3 shots over Casper. Nicklaus is 1 further back. But Arnie is just, he's just ready to win this. He hasn't won a major since 1964, and he's got his army out there. And right from the first hole, he's playing like Arnold Palmer. On a par 5, second shot, he hits a driver from the deck, lands 20 feet from the pin, 2 putts for his birdie, and right, boom, he's got a 4-shot lead right on the after the first hole. Second hole, he extends his lead to 5. The third hole, Casper bogeys, and Arnie's got a 6-stroke lead after 3 holes in the final round. And Palmer birdies the 9th hole to go out in a stellar 32. Casper and Nicklaus went out in 36. And now with 9 holes to go in the U.S. Open, Arnold Palmer has a 7-shot lead. The full ABC broadcast, they were only on for 2 hours. The full ABC broadcast is actually available on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in 1966 U.S. Open. If you do that, the first thing you're going to see is Ben Hogan putting on the 18th green to finish out his round. And he finishes with a strong round of 70. And now he has to wait and see if that's going to hold up and he'll get that top 15. The next thing you'll see is the leaderboard with this stunning 7-stroke lead. And it's more stunning because Palmer is not only ahead by 7, he's the only player in the tournament who's under par. He's 6 under par. Casper is +1, 7 shots back. And at this point, all the sports writers and the newscasters are just assuming that Palmer's got this wrapped up. Art Rosenbaum wrote in the San Francisco Chronicle that the London newspapers started filing their stories and hotel operators started renting out players' rooms. It's a foregone conclusion. Arnie's going to win the tournament. Now, on the 10th hole, Arnie has a poor drive and he bogeys the hole. Still, he's 6 up with 8 holes to go. He pars the 11th. He birdies the 12th. So does Casper. So after 12 holes, Palmer is ahead by 6 shots. 6-shot lead with 6 holes to go. He bogeys the 13th hole. 5-shot lead with 5 holes to go. Now, even though ABC had come on the air when Palmer and Casper had made the turn, you don't actually see them until they get to the 14th hole because they only had cameras on the 14th through the 18th hole. So on YouTube, they finally pick up the action. You finally see Palmer and Casper when they're hitting their approach shots into 14. And Casper hits to within 10 feet. Palmer hits to within 40 feet. But they both parred a hole. And Arnold Palmer has a 5-shot lead with 4 holes to play. On the 15th tee, we get to see a classic view of Arnold Palmer. He was always famous for hitching up his pants. You'll see him hitching up his pants twice on the tee. It's a par 3 where the flag is guarded by a bunker right in front of the green. Palmer, of course, goes for the flag, and he hits it into the bunker. Casper plays it safe. He's got a 30-foot putt. Casper birdies, Palmer bogeys, and Palmer's lead is down to 3, but there's still only 3 holes to play. Now they get to the par 5, 16th hole, and this is a long hole, especially for back in 1966. It's 604 yards. Casper hits safely into the fairway. Palmer, obviously thinking about trying to reach this green in 2, he hits a vicious hook. It hits a tree on the left side and bounces back, ricochets back, but still lands in the deep rough. Now, the next time we see Palmer on the ABC feed, he hits a shot out of that rough. TV and the sportscasters don't realize is that there was a muff shot that they didn't pick up, and they didn't realize it until Palmer was on the green. His second shot actually only went 8 feet, and there's no video of it. But his second shot only went 8 feet. That was his third shot that he hit into the fairway. So he took 4 shots to reach the green. He 2-putted for a bogey. Meanwhile, Casper was in the middle of the fairway in his tee shot, short of the green on his second shot, pitched up and made the birdie. And now Palmer's lead is down to 1 shot with 2 holes to play. We get to the 17th. And here's a sight you will never see today. Palmer lights up a cigarette on 17th tee. It's right on the YouTube video you can see. He hits another duck hook into the crowd. He's into the deep rough again. His second shot on this par 4 lands 40 yards toward the green. Palmer bogeys while Casper pars the hole, and Palmer and Casper are tied with 1 hole to play. Unbelievable. They get to the
Indeed.
18th. Yeah, they get to the 18th hole. Palmer's in the rough again, but his second shot, he manages to get it 30 feet from the pin. Casper's on 20 feet from the pin. And now is where a very interesting rule comes into play. For this U.S. Open, for the first time, the USGA implemented what they called the continuous putting rule. And what this was meant to speed up play. And it really did speed up play, but it created some awkward situations like the one you had on the final hole of the tournament. So what the continuous putting rule was is you can mark your ball and pick it up just one time. After you do that, you cannot pick up your ball again. And once you have the honor to putt, you must putt out. So what happens here is Palmer, 30 feet away, putts to within just 4 feet. He leaves the putt 4 feet short. So Casper, who's 20 feet away, doesn't putt next. Palmer has to putt next. So this is a real pressure putt, and he makes it. And then Casper, 2 putts from 20 feet, and they finish tied. Casper had shot 32 on the back 9. Palmer had shot a 39 on the back 9, and his 7-shot lead evaporated. So the way the U.S. Open is played back then, it's an 18-hole playoff the next day. And Palmer goes out in front again. He shoots a 33 on the front 9. Casper shoots a 35, but pretty similar to the way the 4th round went. Palmer starts the 10th with a bogey, and it just goes south from there. Palmer shoots a 40 on the back 9 in the playoff. Casper comes home in 33, and Billy Casper wins the U.S. Open playoff by 4 shots. And Arnold Palmer is just crushed. For the 3rd time in 4 years, he has lost playoff for the U.S. Open.
An absolutely amazing and fascinating story, Len. But I'll tell you what, like I mentioned earlier, Billy Casper and he and actually Gary Player were the very first guests ever on this show back in 2013. And regarding that 18th hole in regulation, when Arnold lagged his putt and it came up short, Arnold looked at Billy and asked, "What do you want me to do?" And Billy replied, "Go ahead, Arnold, while you're hot." And that comment ate Billy up for the rest of his life. The first thing that he wanted to do, Billy, when he was diagnosed with an incurable disease, was to apologize to Arnold for having said that. It was just something that bothered him forever, that it was a cocky comment or it just was out of character for Billy. And it absolutely ate him up for the rest of his life, that when he found out that things weren't going well with his health, he wanted to go apologize to Arnold for having said that.
Well, thanks for sharing that story. I didn't come across that. All my research is from the sports writers and the newspaper archive, so I didn't come across that. But it is very interesting because with that continuous putting rule, there really wasn't a choice. Palmer was required to putt next and putt out. So that's
interesting.
That's kind of interesting. And
Indeed.
I did some research on that continuous putting rule. So while it did speed up play, they were averaging 3.5 hours a round. The players hated it for a lot of reasons. It got them out of their rhythm. Obviously, they couldn't mark the ball again and reposition it. We see that's so important today. They couldn't do that, and so they got rid of that rule prior to the 1970 U.S. Open. So that rule was in place in 66 through 69, and Palmer was actually required to take that putt. So
yeah, that's interesting.
But at that time, it was brand new. So maybe Casper probably said that because it was a brand new rule. So maybe and this was the first time it had been implemented. So maybe Casper thought there really was a choice there. So, but that's really a touching story.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of more things I wanted to mention about this. So sports writers were having a field day trying to figure out what happened and characterize this. And one of my favorite sports writers of the time in the 60s was a humorous sports columnist for the Los Angeles Times, Jim Murray. And here's what he said the day after the tournament about Palmer. He plays the game like a guy playing blackjack who gets 19 and says, "Me again." So I love that one. But then there was another mention in the San Francisco Chronicle by Gene Ward, and he talked about how what happened to Arnie has happened over and over again to every golf buff everywhere, and they all identify with a champion who can come apart at the seams. And this is his quote. It's a strange sort of paradox, but Arnie's army gained whole new divisions of recruits as a result of the general's collapse. So it may be that Palmer's popularity actually increased because of that famous flop in the U.S. Open in 1966.
Wow, that would be something, right? One of the things that I've always said, Len, is when somebody goes into the final round of a major with a decent sized lead, and as you mentioned, Palmer started with a 3-stroke lead, but as you get a larger and larger lead, I almost wonder if that's the worst thing that could happen to you, right? Because at some point you start to, when things go south a little bit, then all of a sudden, like we see in football, right, you start to play prevent defense. And then the next thing you know, that lead's evaporated. We all remember Norman and Faldo at the Masters in '96. But I feel like that's almost the worst thing that can happen to you, is to get a huge lead because you start to relax, you start to play prevent defense, and the next thing you know, that lead is gone.
Definitely.
Len, a couple of other stories I want you to talk about are around some articles that you've written about the Pirates, and a Pirates star from that same time frame, 1966, was about Woody Fryman, who was a very underappreciated pitcher, I think. He was a 2-time All-Star, pitched in the major leagues for 18 seasons, the first 2 in Pittsburgh, starting with that 1966 season. Len, tell everybody the wonderful story you wrote about him and how it sort of happened at the same time. This great game happened at the same time that another great pitching star from the era, Sandy Koufax, did something special too, but Fryman outshined him just a little bit. Tell that story.
So after the U.S. Open finished, I'm still continuing to read the newspapers every day in 1966, and I'm primarily following Sandy Koufax and Willie Mays because they were the top 2 players in baseball at that time. But I started noticing the Pittsburgh Pirates are doing some interesting stuff, and they're challenging the Dodgers and the Giants. And they had Woody Fryman was a promising Woody Fryman, who went on to a pretty long baseball career, was a promising young rookie for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And on this particular night that I was following, that caught my attention, Fryman was starting in New York for the first time in his career, playing the Mets on July 1st, 1966. And Sandy Koufax is on the other side of the country, playing in Dodger Stadium. And on this night, Woody Fryman outpitches Sandy. They're not pitching head to head, but there's a real buzz around Sandy Koufax because he's on his way to maybe a 30-game season. It looks like 30-win season, and nobody knows who Woody Fryman is. Probably a lot of people in Pittsburgh don't know who Woody Fryman is. But when you opened up the newspapers the next day, it was Woody Fryman who had pitched the better game. So what did Woody Fryman do? Well, in the top of the first inning of this game in New York, he lets up an infield single to Ron Hunt. It was a ball that bounced through the middle. Fryman couldn't get it. The shortstop, Gene Alley, did get to it, but he did not have a throw in time. And it's an infield single for Ron Hunt, who was pretty fast. Now, Ron Hunt tries to steal second, but he gets thrown out. So there's the first out. And now Woody Fryman proceeds to get the next 2 batters out. So he gets through the first inning, only have faced the minimum 3 batters. Does the same thing, retires the Mets in order in the second inning, just 3 batters. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 8th innings. Every inning, 3 up, 3 down. Now, by this time, the Pirates, who are the best hitting team in baseball, which was one of the things that was really surprising to me, by far they were the best hitting team in baseball. They lead 12-0. He's got lots of run support, something Koufax often didn't get with the Dodgers in the 60s. And so now you get to the 9th inning, and once again, 1, 2, 3. Woody Fryman has pitched a 1-hit shutout, but it gets better than that. And here's the thing that sports writers at the time didn't really understand. Now, some of them recognized he had pitched to the minimum number of batters. He had only pitched to 27 batters because he got because the first batter had been thrown out stealing, and then everybody else was retired. But they didn't realize how special the game was. 53 years later, baseball organization called Retro Sheet, which does a lot of baseball research, they published an article in which they identified 82 games in baseball history up to that time where a pitcher had not pitched a perfect game, but had only pitched to the minimum 27 batters. So the only way that can happen is if you had a game like Fryman, where somebody got a hit or a walk or was hit by a pitch, and you got them off the base by stealing or maybe being picked off. So 82 games have been like that. But I did a little further research and found out only 2 games of those 82 in baseball history have ever been where it was the first batter that you faced got on base and then you got them off the base. The only other time that happened was by the very famous pitcher Cy Young in 1908. And in his case, Young had walked the first batter, and then that batter was out stealing. So Young actually pitched a no-hitter, only pitching to 27 batters. So that gave Woody Fryman the distinction then of being the only game in baseball history where the pitcher gave up a single to start the game and then got that guy off the bases, got the next 26 batters out. And Retro Sheet came up with a name for these types of games. They call them imperfect perfectos. And Woody Fryman pitched an imperfect perfecto that was unlike any other that's ever been pitched. And nowadays, we don't even have these because they don't even let anybody pitch a complete game anymore. Practically.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But yes, agreed. You also told the story of another great pirate, Dale Long. It was about 10 years prior to the Fryman story in '56. He had that magical run of hitting a home run in 8 consecutive games. And the way that you tell about his career, and I was amazed, Len, to see the great years that Dale Long had in the minor leagues, but the poor guy couldn't get a shot in the major leagues, and especially with a really terrible Pirates organization back in the 50s. Talk about the run that Dale Long went on.
Yeah, so Dale Long played over 1,200 games in the minor leagues and didn't make it in the majors until 1955 when he was 29. And then at age 30 in 1956, he goes on this run, as you mentioned, eight home runs in 8 consecutive games. The record at that time had been 6, and the last player to do it had been Willie Mays. And so here comes Dale Long and beats it by 2. And so it was a new major league record, and it's never been broken. There's been a few players who have equaled that 8 home runs in 8 games, but it has never been broken. And the cool thing about it was he hit the 8th one in Pittsburgh. All the other ones were hit on the road, but he did hit the 8th one in Pittsburgh. And the other really interesting thing is it's kind of hard for younger people to understand this, even almost hard for me to understand at age 62. But in the mid 1950s, baseball was clearly the number 1 sport in America. And when Long was on the middle of this streak, it was something that all of America was watching in those last few days when he got to 5, 6, 7. So it was such a big thing that in between the 7th and 8th games, they had a day off. They had been in Philadelphia for the 7th game. So on the day off, it happened to be a Sunday. He was invited to New York, where he appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. And the Ed Sullivan Show at that time was like, one of the biggest shows in America. Ed Sullivan had the Beatles on when they first came to America. But he got the 8th home run in Pittsburgh in front of the highest attended night game that they'd had in Pittsburgh in many years. And it was a long home run in the 4th inning off of another great pitcher, Carl Erskine. And then it took, and this is also I thought was really interesting. It took perhaps the best pitcher in baseball in 1956, Don Newcomb, who won, I think, 27 games that year. It took Don Newcomb the next day to snap Dale Long's streak.
And to that end, Len, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I want to say I read in your article, didn't the streak was broken, didn't he hit a home, or not a home run, but didn't he hit a ball that was over 400 feet to, like, straightaway center field? He hit some long. Am I Andy Pettit here? Am I misremembering that?
Yeah, he hit a ball that straightaway center field in Forbes Field was absurdly long. I forget what the dimensions were, but not too many people had ever done that, and it made Duke Snyder jealous. So Duke Snyder went out and hit a home run over the center field wall in Pittsburgh as well.
It was an unbelievable story, and like you said, the 1,200 games that he toiled down into the minor leagues, and some of those years, and I know you rattled off a bunch of stats in the article, but some of those years seemed like I can't imagine, like, what in the world were they keeping him down in the minor leagues for? He had some pretty good seasons along the way, right?
I think the knock on him was he was a poor fielder. And that's why he was a first baseman and he was a poor fielder. And that's why that was holding him back from getting consideration to play in the big leagues. Back then, fielding was held up in much more importance than it is now. So it didn't matter how good your bat was. If you couldn't field, they didn't want you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Defense wins championships, right? So, Len, before I let you go, tell everybody about all the wonderful articles. Give them a little sniglet or so about what you always put up on your Substack page, and then how they can go out there, subscribe to it, and follow you.
Well, there's over 400 articles I've written on all different sports since I started the Sports Time Traveler 4 years ago. The easiest way to find my work is simply to go to the sportstimetraveler.com. There you can get links to all my articles and books. Well, what I try to do is give you the feeling like you're actually back in time, experiencing the game as it's happening. And one of the things I pride myself on doing is I write my stories kind of backwards from the way most sports writers do. Most sports writers will say, here is the result of last night's game, and then they'll give you the details. But I want to build the drama in it. I want you to be on the edge of your seat like you're experiencing the game now. So I also try to find a theme, a story. If there's not some kind of heartwarming human interest drama, I won't write about it. It's not just who played the game and who hit a home run. So my stories are going to build up drama, and you only find out in the end who won or what was the big thing that happened. And so go to the sportstimetraveler.com. You can follow all my stories. Again, I'm writing on all different sports, and I'm always happy to take suggestions from anybody. My only criteria is I focus on events that happened precisely 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago.
And aren't you also really actually going through that 66 season as if it was today?
Yeah, I'm sticking with the 66 season, and the Pirates are still, as of like this morning, when everybody's going online to ESPN to get their sports fix, I'm opening up the sports pages from July 28, 1966, and I'm really excited about the Pirates. So I was looking at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette this morning. Pirates are still in first place by percentage points over the Giants and the Dodgers. It's really thrilling. And one of the things that's incredible is all three outfielders of the Pirates at this moment, 60 years ago, Matty Alou in center, the great Roberto Clemente in right, and the incomparable Willie Stargell in left. All three of them are the three leading batters, leading in batting average in the entire major leagues. And I've done some research that's never happened before, that this late in the season, one team's outfield had all three outfielders with the best batting averages in all of baseball, not just the National League. So it's very exciting following these Pittsburgh Pirates in 1966.
Yes, it is. And Willie Stargell was my baseball hero. And I saw that you posted the batting leaders, and I was stunned to see that they had the top three spots. And that was very exciting for me to be able to go back and see that. And Matty Alou, it was certainly before my time, before I was cognitive enough to really understand baseball and that sort of thing. I was just, I was one in 1966, and even Alou stuck around for a couple more years before they traded him. But I could just never understand what in the world the Pirates were doing getting rid of Matty Alou, because he was such a great hitter.
Absolutely. all the Alou brothers were great hitters.
Yes, they were. Len, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to come back and be a part of the show. It's really great stuff. You're a tremendous writer. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed watching everything or reading everything that you put out there on your Substack page and then out there online at thesportstimetraveler.com. It's just, to me, and I think, again, this goes back to your style, but as you write about that 66 season and the 66 year, even the U.S. Open that we talked about a little bit ago, I mean, it's just gripping stuff. I look forward to going on to your Substack page and read that article every day to see what's happening. It is as if we are reliving that 66 season. And for those of us that really weren't around for it, to kind of, there's so many great players. I mean, Major League Baseball was king back then, and there's so many great players that were out there playing that year. So it's really interesting to kind of relive it through your eyes or through your writing to be able to absorb what happened. So kudos to you. Thank you for what you do. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you for having me again. It's really a thrill and an honor to be here with you today.
I appreciate that very much. I look forward to catching up with you soon. Again, Len, take care. All the best to you and your family. That is the great Len Furman, folks. Again, thesportstimetraveler.com is his website, and that's how you can see him on Substack. And folks, it is one of the things that I do first thing every morning as I go out there and look at his site and with the things that he is publishing, the articles that he's written, to really see what happened in 66. I mean, it is really thrilling stuff. I mean, as a kid that was born in Pittsburgh, and I know that the Pirates don't hold on to win in 66, but they were the best team, the best offense in baseball. And I had no idea about that. And to Len's point, to be out there and see the batting leaders and to see Clemente, Stargell, and Alou 1, 2, 3. I mean, that's I would have never guessed that happened. I obviously knew Matty Alou was a hell of a hitter, and from an average standpoint, and so was Roberto. Willie was kind of young in his career. He just came up in 63, and for what he was doing in 66 and the average that he had and the power that was starting to emerge and all of that sort of thing. And then to read that article about Woody Fryman. Now, Woody Fryman was around 18 years. The guy was a 2-time All-Star, but only the first 2 were in Pittsburgh, and 66 was the first. But to read that article and to see what he had and the idea that he nearly threw a perfect game, gave up that leadoff single. And now it made me think about, I happened to be at Three River Stadium, and I believe the year was 81, when Jim Bibby was pitching against the Braves. Terry Harper leads off the game with a single, and then Jim Bibby proceeds to retire the next 27 batters in a row. I was there that day, and that was a huge thrill to see Bibby almost throw a perfect game. But then for Woody Fryman to do that and to face the minimum and have that great start to his Pirates career was a wonderful thing to read about. So I highly recommend you go out there and subscribe to Len's Substack and check out his website and give him a follow. If you're a sports nut, you're just going to love the way he writes and relive history, if you will, as if it were happening this very day. So it's great stuff. I look forward to catching up with Len, hopefully before too long. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on this episode of Next on the Tee. I want to send out my sincere thanks again to Tom Patri, Virgil Herring, and Len Furman for joining me today. Scheduled to join me next time are PGA Master Professional John Hughes will be here. We'll get our monthly visit from the Confidence Doctor, Dr. Bob Winters. And then my Goomba and top instructor Rob Strano will join us fresh off his trip to Germany, which I can't wait to hear all about. So you're definitely not going to want to miss that episode. I want to thank my friends again, as always, over at the Pittsburgh Tribune Review and the Trib Live for being such wonderful partners with me here on the show and for hosting the show on their site. For the latest news from Western Pennsylvania and beyond, including your favorite sports now, go to triblive.com. You can find this show by clicking on the sports section tab, and right there on the home page, front and center for you, is going to be the most recent episode of the show. Or you can type in podcast.triblive.com, then click on Next on the Tee, then many of the most recent episodes from this season are available for you there as well. But as you guys know, you can find the show pretty much anywhere you get your podcast content. We're out there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Good Pods, golfnewsnet.com. And I want to invite you to subscribe to my Substack page as well. I've got some great articles available for you there on there. You can also listen to the show, started to upload the podcast episodes on there, so you can find that. Keep your eyes out for the short clips, right, from the Next on the Tee Legends Vault. I've got some clips that I go back over the 13 seasons of the show. I'm trying to pull some of those clips in there for you, so some short 1 to 5 minute segments available from the vault for you. Plus, we're doing the Did You Know series, right? So a lot of the wonderful guests that have become great friends on this show, we're doing a little Did You Know series about their careers and what they've done, so you can see that on there as well. But folks, like I say each and every week before I sign off, my biggest thanks, a huge dose of vitamin G goes out to each and every one of you for being the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts, barring none. I can't tell you how much each and every one of you mean to me and for the growth of this show. Until next time, hit 'em straight, my friends.
Thanks for joining Chris again this week on Next on the Tee. We hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did. Please share the show with your golf buddies and be sure to follow it on Trib Live or your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thanks for pressing play and being part of the journey. We'll see you next week, right here, where the best minds in golf share their stories.